car page of Frampton.
And the TED designation tells us that this one is a petrol TVO tractor.
Number 28 for horticultural. Thank you for the lemonade, Terry, and your good lady. Number 24 from the horticultural machinery, a lovely little Coalwood Model A of 1947 owned by Kate Healy of Donington. Oh, and here's something a little bit special for you. It's a Lister Auto Truck Mark II of 1960 owned by Al Bugsby of Spanish.
To see what drives it.
Well, we're on to one of our large tractors now. Our large tractor, this one, a International 785XL of 1984, owned by S. Honeywell of Brandon.
This one's equipped with a springtime harrow set. Points are nice and shiny, so it looks like he's been working with it.
Number 26, an International 434 of 1969, owned by S. Honeywell of Brandon. And then a beautiful little Boland tractor, a 1353 of 1971, owned by T. Fisher of Brandon.
Not sure how much we push with the bulldozer blade though.
Well, a lovely little Style 17 with me now. This Style 17 is a four-wheel drive tractor, a bit of an illegal immigrant this one, entered the UK on the back of a lorry, known as a grey import. It bought it by FNR at Weeting in 1995 and started life in a horse stables in the Leeds area. Purchased by the current owner in 2020 at the start of lockdown, used on a plot of land and moved things around and cleaned the weeds away. The Style 17 is made by Fuji in Japan for the Japanese market, and all these trucks in December 2023. They got the Roy Wheelhorse Road Tax in December 23 for the first time. The previous owner lived in Aldwinkle in Northamptonshire, ran it for 12 years. Now it belongs to Chris and Jean Beeble from Easton in Norfolk. Well, one of our large tractors with us now. It is, of course, a Ford 5610 of 1984, owned by P. Rutling and Skipton.
As you can see, a 3-barrow mounted reversible plough on there.
John Deere L of 1942, owned by M. Buston. The Germans coming towards us now. Get a bit of nice mower on that one, Phil.
Yes, a mid-mounted mower.
Being followed by a Yanmar 1500 BF of 1978, owned by C. Hopkins of Southminster. Well, a lovely little Alice Chalmers B, restored USA bow axle model of 1939, owned by A. Fenn of Bowden.
How narrow they are. The idea was that most of the tools that you put on them are mid-mounted, so you could see exactly whatever implement you got on was doing.
Well, a lovely little Yanmar diesel tractor with us now, a Yanmar 169D. Being followed by a Wheelhorse Commando 8 of 1968, owned by Steve Kaiser Hincham. Well, with us now on my right, I've got a lovely little sportsman called Tiger, 1941, and there here is the commentary box, one of our large tractors, a Ford 7810 2WD of 1989, owned by B. Garrett of Attleborough. A little 1965 McCormick International with us now. You're very welcome to the arena. And number 92 coming towards us.
These, of course, in this configuration were often known as golden bellies.
International B250 of 1956, owned by Ed Alderson of Lakenheath, together with a rather splendid McCormick B12 plough on that one.
Yes, certainly is.
From our large tractors is number 6, a Ford 6610 of 1987, owned by G. Aspin of Methwold. Number 145, a McCormick International B250 of 1958, owned by G. Evans of Lakenheath. Lovely bit of kit on that, Phil.
Yeah, he's carrying a land wheel powered McCormick International muck spreader or manure spreader, whichever you like to call it.
With us now a Ford 3000 of 1968 owned by S. Baker of Lakenheath. No scruffy today?
No.
Is it okay?
I should say Dad's got scruffy. Yeah.
Number 82 with us now, a Ford Dexter of 1963, owned by our Clark of Wrexham. Being followed by a lovely little David Brown 2TSI, quite rare these tractors of 1956, owned by Ed Fredell of Dereham.
Now this is a unique tractor. Only 3 were ever built by David Brown and didn't go with a production run, and this one was built by Neville from photographs and drawings, and it's the only one in existence.
With me now, McCormick International 434 of 1967, owned by J. Gavin of Ferguson. Do you recognise this one, Phil?
Yes, I do. This one is owned by my mum.
Number 11 with us now from our large tractors is the Mercedes MB Track Turbo 900 of 1984, owned by Hugh Chapman of Lakenheath. Being followed there by a lovely International Standard W6 of 1944 petrol balancing tractor. Purchased from Lincolnshire, has been in the barn for 14 years. It was stored in the winter of 2004 by the late John Hamilton of Underley in Lakenheath, purchased by Peter Freeman in August 2021. With us now a Ferguson TEA of 1948, owned by K. Martin of Boxford.
Always nice to see him in the working clothes. This one has got a Ferguson transport box.
Number 9 comes towards us. Lovely turned out Ferguson TEA 20 of 1947, owned by Keith Slater of Brandon. Quite a lot of work on that one, Phil.
Yes, that particular one is a conversion from straight petrol to petrol TVO. He's got what's known as a Loddon vaporizer on here. That's to help the petrol, the TVO to vaporise, keep more heat in the manifold. And since we're in Norfolk, the vaporizers
are coming towards me now. A Matthews Ferguson 135 of 1977, owned by A. Davis of Over.
Also had his furry friend on there with him.
Being followed by a Ferguson TEF of 1955, owned by P. Rudling of Bedford. Number 131, a Matthew Ferguson 3070 of 1990, owned by I. Dolman of Fordham.
And he's carrying a 3-furrow mounted reversible plough.
Featured David Brown. It's a David Brown 885 of 1973, owned by Havley Ground of Boston. Number 72 with me now. Number 72, a lovely little Renault N73G of 1961, owned by A. Wedgdale of Spall. As Phil knows, I've got a soft spot for French tractors and Vineyard tractors, and this one is a typical of the horticultural machinery section, a Wheel Horse Commando 8 of 1968, owned by J. Thompson of Dereham. Number 93 with us now, a Ferguson FE35 of 1957, owned by R. Taylor of Mulbarton.
Yeah, he also had a 2-furrow Ferguson plough.
A little Yanmar 1601 of 1978, owned by F. Rudd of Hitcham.
Features a rear-mounted forklift.
We were wondering where Scruffy was, and here's the answer.
Well, here he is.
A lovely little Ferguson, this one, of 1947.
Yeah, nice little petrol Fergie. In its working clothes, used for ploughing matches, etc., even with Scruffy in the box.
Number 80, a Ford Dexter of 1960, owned by D. Giles of Brookville. Number 68, a Nuffield 425 of 1969, owned by D. Cousins of Sleaford.
These little tractors are not much used on farms. They were more used for sport fields and other uses of that kind.
Well, a very splendid looking International 434 of 1968, owned by J. Dennis of Hadlam. Beautifully turned out tractor, this Phil.
Yes, that certainly is. There's a lot of work gone into that.
Quite exquisite. Number 116 coming towards us now, a Fordson Power Major of 1960, owned by J. Stanley of Battleton. Being followed by a McCormick International D275 of 1963, owned by P. Savory of Marshall and St. James.
Another one with a very useful size transport box mounted.
Well, number 75, something completely different for you now, a Fordson E27 dual drive of 1949, owned by G. Carmen of Croston.
That has got to be one of the most unusual tractors at the rally this weekend. Can't say I've ever seen a dual drive made out of two E27Ns.
Number 112, a Fordson Major E180 KN of 1952, owned by S. Mackenzie of Wexroad. Being followed by another of our lovely David Brands. This time a David Brand 990 of 1970, owned by Stephen Spencer of Great Dunham.
This one is a high clear version David Brown. As you can see, it sits much higher off the ground and also has
58. Together with a safety car owned by A. Whiteman and Marshall and James.
Yes, a nice early cab on there. Keeps most of the weather off anyway.
With us now a Nuffield 465 of 1967, owned by M. Garnham of Inderclay. Being followed by a 1964 Fordson Supermajor, owned by M. Fowler of Manny. Number 79 with us now, a Fordson Dexter of 1960, owned by K. Fowler of Manny. And one of our large tractors coming towards me now, number 9 in the programme. It's a Ford County 1164 of 1973, owned by P. Clark of Felton.
Yes, County were one of a number of engineering companies who produced a four-wheel drive or equal wheel drive for Fordson tractors, or Ford tractors as they were then.
Well, 1954 Nuffield University just passing the Golden Point, followed by a beautiful KCC of 1949. Well, I said it before, Phil, Alice Chalmers Model B, the first other tractor I've ever had a go on. Absolutely love them to this day. This one a 1941, owned by L. Rolfe of Makeney.
Yes, they certainly are a nice little tractor.
Number 104, a Kill Marshall Series 2 of 1947, owned by F. Fowler of Manny. Interesting machine, Phil. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Well, this one is a beam tool carrier built in 1950. It's a multi-use horticultural tractor. I always describe it as looks like a bedstead with an engine on. I've seen several of them. I'm not sure any two are exactly the same. They were built by one or two different manufacturers. You can have different implements on here. You can have inter-row hose, inter-row scufflers, drill boxes like we've got at the moment. Or you can have a spray bar with a spray tank. Not sure I'd want to be. This one is also now owned by my mum.
Number 128 with us now, a Matthew Ferguson 135 multi-power of 1969, owned by J. Sams of Bennington. And number 124, a Matthew Ferguson 35X of 1962, owned by T-Fans of Bennington.
Faker on the back there.
Number 67 with us now, a Nuffield 345 of 1968, owned by P. Smith of Hingham. Not sure whether this one was industrial or airfield use, Phil.
No, you couldn't immediately tell. I would probably say industrial.
And we'll explain why in a minute. With us now, a Matthew Ferguson 135 of 1967, owned by H. Bonfield of Clavering. With us now, number 88, a Matthew Ferguson 203 industrial of 1965, owned by H. Bonfield of Cuffley. Now, there's all that yellow tractor in front. You see a yellow tractor, not in its traditional livery, it means one of two things. It is industrial or it is used for airfield use. So the tractor could be seen, in this case, industrial.
And that one is fitted with a foot throttle as opposed to a hand one.
Well, with us now, one of our large tractors, a lovely Duke for DK4B of 1974, owned by G. Chapman of Lakenheath. And number 106, a Steel Marshall Series 2 of 1948, owned by J. Chapman of Standard. And next year we're going to do an exhibition showing you how to start a Field Marshal here in the arena as part of our tractor display.
Yes, if you ever get the chance to watch someone start a Field Marshal, it's well worth watching.
Number 33, a Fordson Standard N of 1942, owned by J. Lance of Hawley. Followed there by number 49, a Fordson Major E27N of 1951, also owned by J. Lance of Hawley. One of our tractors that we have at the Woolbit Rally. Number 139, a Ferguson TF20 of 1953, owned by J. Yardy of Littleport, together with a mounted plough.
Yeah, nice 2-furrow mounted plough on there. He's got the brackets for his marker post, etc. and a toolbox for his tools to adjust his plough.
And with us now, a David Brown 990 Selectomatic of 1967, owned by John Stewart of March. Number 78, a Fordson Dexter Mark 1 of 1960, owned by T. Daniels of Eaton Ford. Lovely Fordson Major with us now, of 1946, owned by J. Langley of Weeting.
This E27N is a petrol TVO version, as you can see by the two fill caps on top of the fuel tank.
Number 58, a Nuffield Universal 4 of 1959, owned by G. Chapman of Lakenheath.
And still got the rotavator on that he did Dad's allotment with.
Number 51, a lovely little BMC Mini of 1966, owned by Pete Drury of Weeting. 41, owned by K. Clark of Witham. Number 114, a Fordson E1A Major of 1955, owned by N. Churchman of Risley. And number 65, a Nuffield 465 of 1967, owned by V. Baker of Hogwall. Number 18 with us, a lovely International W4 of 1940, owned by L. Diver of Ely. One of our Caterpillar vehicles now, it's number 48 in your programme, a Fordson County Crawler E27N of 1950, owned by C. Underwood of Welney. Following this is a David Brown 950 Implementic. And number 56, a Nuffield DM4 of 1954, owned by A. Brown of Hindringham. Fordson Super Major with us now, of 1964. And number 63, a Nuffield 1060 of 1966, owned by J. Hammond of Liverpool. Well, another bit of a rare tractor for you now, a John Deere AM of 1949 owned by Joe Garrett of Boston. And then number 3 with us now, a David Brand DKA of 1941 owned by A. Foster. Walter Major E27N of 1956 owned by M. Foster of Dunmow. Now a lovely little bull-nosed tractor. It is of course a David Brand, this time a VA312 narrow tractor of 1952 owned by D&A Smith of Whittlesea. I love this little narrowness of this tractor. You don't see many David Brands of that proportion.
No, you don't. The other thing about David Brand's VAKs and crop masters is they've got a dual seat. And they used to say if the farmer had one of them, that was how he took his boys down to church on a Sunday or down the park.
With me now, a McCormick International Super FCC Vineyard tractor of 1960 owned by L. Rose of Murrow. Haven't seen the McCormick International as a Vineyard before. I particularly like it.
Yes, especially since it's in its working clothes.
Number 111 approaching the commentary point, a Phil Marshall Series 3 of 1951 owned by T. Harvey of Norwich.
Yes, the unmistakable sound of the big single-cylinder engine of a Field Marshall.
With us now, a Matthew Harris 744 P6 of 1949 owned by D. Monk of Kentford. Number 97 with us now, a Fordson Super Major. B62.
This one has been Ferguson, roadless, one of 102 manufacturers who supplied four-wheel drive conversions from boards and tractors.
Well, this tractor is absolutely magnificent, Phil, in terms of its bodywork and its paint job. Absolutely superb. It's a Ford 4000 of 1973 owned by D. Arnold in Norwich. A lot of work gone into this. It is immaculate. Number 142 with us now. Number 142, International Farmall M of 1949 owned by K. Gore of West Dereham. And three absolutely stunning, particularly on the paintwork. The first one's a Fordson in Irish transition, all very rare in the UK, and 1932 owned by A. King of Wimbledon. Second up is number 28, a Fordson F of 1924 owned by Vineyard of Wimbledon. And the third one up is our beautiful orange livery is a Fordson F of 1937 owned by A. King of Wimbledon. They certainly did turn out some very fine looking tractors. Well, number 73 with us now is our very own Gerald Seeley on the Stormers of 1917. Gerald, of course, one of the organisers of the Woolpit Rally and the Woolpit scheme. They raised £31,500 this year for local charities. It has never been, I really recommend it, a fantastic rally. Solid trip, what I like to tell people, Ransom the Summer Company, the Robert Ransom, of course, came from Norwich. Number 32 with us now. Number 32 is, of course, a Fordson Standard End of 1942, owned by I. Gordon, the Middlebourne. Followed there by number 15, a Ferguson TF20 of 1953, owned by J. Moore of Middle Paxton.
This one is carrying a potato spinner. You'll notice the stack hanging on the side. You hope that this leaves the potatoes in a nice easy row so they're easy to pick up.
Of 1965, owned by W. Waller of Norwich. Love to see young people getting involved in tractors, it's fantastic. And number 134 with us now, number 134 in our tractors is a lovely example of a Ferguson CEA 20 together with a potato planter owned by a Havelock of Stowmarket.